A billionaire flaunts his mistress in public, only to be taken aback when his pregnant wife shows up with a CEO. A silence envelopes the opulent ballroom, where crystal chandeliers cast shimmering reflections of the palpable tension that fills the atmosphere. At the heart of the scene is Jonathan Colton, a self-made millionaire clad in a sharp tuxedo, confidently presenting his sophisticated mistress to the world. Onlookers are taken aback by this audacious exhibition, murmuring in hushed tones in secluded nooks. Suddenly, the doors swing open, and a very pregnant young woman enters. It's Jonathan's wife, Scarlet. But that's not the only surprise in store. Beside her stands the enigmatic billionaire CEO, Ethan Blackwell, who appears resolute in his mission to shield her from any harm. The impending scandal is set to explode, leaving no one in the room untouched by its fallout. The Crystal Renaissance Hotel featured an impressively grand ballroom, its vast marble floors shining with a reflective brilliance. Flower arrangements transported from Amsterdam filled the air with subtle fragrances of tulips and lilies. Numerous attendees, adorned in their most elegant outfits, socialized, exchanging air kisses and polite remarks about market trends, luxury vessels, and future financial ventures. The annual Bright Futures Gala unfolded, a significant occasion for the city's upper echelon, celebrated for generating millions in support of education for underprivileged children. Jonathan Colton, the evening's most awaited host, stood tall with a commanding presence that captivated the audience. He had ascended through the ranks. Not so long ago, he was merely another junior executive at Ambrotech. Yet, whether by sheer fortune or shrewd maneuvering, he soared to prominence after purchasing a struggling software startup for a mere pittance and turning it into a digital titan. By the time he reached 35, Jonathan's net worth had skyrocketed into the nine-figure territory. Despite his achievements, an air of arrogance seemed to linger around him. This evening it was showcased in all its glory. Amidst the opulent ambience of shimmering chandeliers and a carefully selected orchestra performing Mozart, he made his entrance onto the stage, accompanied by the striking brunette, Cassandra Monroe. Whispers had floated around regarding her for months. Some claimed she had taken on the role of his new marketing director. Whispers suggested she was an enigmatic figure, a socialite hailing from Europe. The reality, as the sly glimmer in Jonathan's gaze suggested, was much more sensational. Cassandra donned a striking crimson gown that accentuated her every curve, igniting murmurs among the spectators. It was a bold declaration, particularly given that everyone was aware of Jonathan's marital status. Yet, his wife, Scarlet Coloulton, was notably missing. Jonathan tapped the microphone, his voice resonating effortlessly above the soft hum of the audience. Esteemed guests, we appreciate your presence at the Bright Futures Gala. An enchanting evening awaits you, culminating in an exhilarating announcement later tonight. Delight in the celebrations and keep in mind that every dollar contributed this evening directly supports the empowerment of our future generations. He extended his arm to Cassandra, guiding her down the steps where they were promptly welcomed by the most influential figures in the city. James Hartford, the CEO of Hartford Industries, gave Jonathan a friendly clap on the shoulder and shot an inquisitive glance at Cassandra. Indeed, you have a knack for efficiency, Jonathan, James quipped, his voice low yet audible enough for a couple of nearby listeners to catch the remark. Jonathan merely smirked. He relished the spotlight, even when it danced on the brink of decorum. He flourished amidst whispers and jealousy. Unbeknownst to him, the meticulously crafted performance he had designed was on the brink of being dismantled in ways he could never foresee. Scarlet, his wife who was 6 months pregnant, was already en route, accompanied by none other than Ethan Blackwell, the enigmatic billionaire CEO known for his secretive philanthropic endeavors. Jonathan may have believed he was the one in charge of this night, yet in reality, destiny and karma were intertwining, and the unfolding events were on the brink of spiraling beyond his grasp. Hours before the gala, Scarlet Coloulton found herself in the living room of their expansive estate on the city's edge. The estate stood as a symbol of Jonathan's achievements. Grand pillars, a serpentine driveway, and perfectly groomed lawns worthy of royalty. Scarlet, however, experienced none of the familiar solace she once found in the breezy spaces and illuminated gardens. 6 months into her pregnancy, she observed Jonathan's slow withdrawal. The man who once tenderly massaged her feet and brought her midnight snacks now seldom shared the same bed. He was perpetually occupied with business dinners that extended into the early hours of the morning. Scarlet attempted to make sense of it, convinced it was merely a temporary response to her demanding job, yet the signs pointing in the opposite direction had become unmistakable. Scarlet had originally intended to forego the Bright Futures Gala. She felt drained, both in spirit and body, with the pregnancy hormones intensifying her anxiety. However, a surprising phone call altered the course of events entirely. The message originated from Natalie Cruz, a dear childhood friend and a legal advisor at Jonathan's company. Natalie's voice quivered with emotion as she implored Scarlet to join her at the gala. "Scarlet, I hope this doesn't unsettle you, but Jonathan intends to bring a guest tonight, someone he's been involved with. You must be there," Natalie murmured, her voice trembling with fear of the repercussions of voicing her thoughts. Scarlet's heart raced as she listened, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. She had long harbored doubts about Jonathan's fidelity, but the sheer humiliation of it being laid bare in public was beyond anything she could have anticipated. A tempest of feelings, rage, pain, and treachery, overwhelmed her. She ended the call in silence, tears welling up in her eyes. For the next hour, Scarlet remained transfixed, gazing out the window of her opulent living room. The setting sun bathed the rose bushes in a warm, golden light, a reminder of the romantic gesture Jonathan had once made, how everything had transformed. She tightened her grip on the glass, the sting of betrayal coursing through her. At that moment, her butler, Bernard, subtly cleared his throat to signal the arrival of a guest. Startled, Scarlet glanced over to see none other than Ethan Blackwell entering her home. Ethan's arrival brought a sense of surprise and solace. A history existed between them. He had once guided Jonathan, which in turn led to a friendship with Scarlet. Yet, as time passed, Ethan distanced himself from the spotlight, seldom stepping into the public eye. "Scarlet," he murmured, worry evident in his expression. "I came across some troubling news regarding Jonathan. I'm here to assist you." She found it impossible to conceal her tears. "He has taken a lover. This evening in a communal setting. I never thought he would betray me like this, particularly at such a crucial time." Ethan paused for a moment, then softly rested his hand on her shoulder. "It's important to have support during tough times. Should you choose to arrive, I will be right there with you. I stand completely behind you." Scarlet took a deep breath, her determination solidifying. She would no longer remain the obedient spouse who lingered in quietude. If Jonathan sought to showcase his mistress before the city's high society, she would confront him directly, and she would not stand alone. In just 2 hours, Scarlet slipped into a breathtaking midnight blue maternity gown. She looked at her reflection, observing the luminous aura that motherhood and a deep-seated resolve bestowed upon her. Power coursed through her veins. As she entered Ethan's polished black Bentley, they embarked on their journey to the gala, unaware that their arrival would trigger a series of events that would alter the course of their lives forever. Cassandra Monroe had always been captivated by the seductive charm of riches and influence. Born as Cassie Marsh in a humble suburb outside London, she discovered early on how swiftly fate could shift its course. When she was 12, her father faced the unfortunate circumstance of losing his job. Her mother faced the challenges of a long-term illness. Poverty arrived uninvited, ushering in a wave of despair. In that moment, Cassandra made a solemn promise to herself. She would never again allow herself to feel powerless. In her late teens, she unearthed her innate talents. A brilliant intellect, insightful intuition, and striking beauty. At the age of 20, she found herself in relationships with accomplished older men. Every relationship enhanced her status, with each man imparting crucial insights into commerce, networking, and the art of influence. Cassandra quickly understood that the true wealth in elite circles lay not merely in finances, but in the hidden truths that people carried. Thus, she mastered the art of revealing them. Following a series of relationships that concluded with significant gains, she turned her attention to exploring the world. She often attended elite events in Monaco, Hong Kong, and Dubai. Ultimately, she journeyed to the United States, forging a connection with real estate mogul Robert Klein in New York, followed by an encounter with a shipping tycoon in Los Angeles. Nevertheless, these matters served as important milestones. Cassandra sought a prize, a partner she could cling to for the long haul, someone whose thirst for recognition mirrored her own drive for success. It was at a private investor conference in San Francisco that she encountered Jonathan Colton. She saw beyond his good looks. What captivated her was his unyielding drive and the manner in which he held the attention of everyone around him. Their flirtation unfolded subtly through lengthy dialogues in hotel lounges and shared journeys to lavish dinners. Jonathan possessed a boldness and intelligence that captivated her completely. He wasn't merely wealthy. He was on the brink of catapulting into the highest tiers of global affluence. In him, she recognized a chance and a soul that resonated with her own. Jonathan, weary of his seemingly flawless marriage, found himself captivated by Cassandra's boldness and elegance. He savored her ability to discuss the stock market and global politics one moment, then effortlessly enchant a table of VIPs the next. Yet Cassandra harbored aspirations that extended far beyond the role of a mere discreet mistress. She craved the limelight, sought power, and yearned to be among the city's upper echelon, rather than lingering in the obscurity of opulent hotels. When Jonathan asked her to join him at the Bright Futures Gala, she readily accepted, without a moment's pause. He seemed to take pride in the idea that it would mark their grand debut as a power couple, yet he conveniently omitted any mention of how he intended to handle the controversy of still being married to Scarlet. Cassandra, in her own way, delighted in the notion of being esteemed by the city's most powerful figures. She had a hunch that Jonathan could soon suggest an arrangement that would be even more profitable. As she stood beside Jonathan on stage, Cassandra Monroe sensed that she had truly reached her destination. The silence of shocked spectators only fueled her sense of self-importance. She was resolute in her intention to leverage this evening to elevate her status within the social hierarchy. What she never saw coming was the unexpected entrance of the very woman she intended to replace, accompanied by one of the rare men in this world capable of eclipsing Jonathan Colton. Long before Jonathan Colton wore bespoke suits and beamed million-dollar smiles for the cameras, he was just John from the outskirts of Oklahoma City. Born to diligent middle-class parents, Jonathan displayed a natural talent for negotiation from a young age. He was the kind of kid who could transform a basic lemonade stand into a thriving mini-franchise, charming his classmates into joining the venture for a share of the earnings. With the aid of scholarships and part-time work, Jonathan gained admission to a respected business school, where his ambition solidified into an unwavering determination. He dove into every competition, became a member of every student business club, and forged connections with unwavering determination. His colleagues held him in high regard, yet there were murmurs that his tactics were overly forceful, perhaps even ruthless. Upon completing his college education, he secured an entry-level role at Ambertech, a moderately sized technology company. His superiors recognized his unwavering enthusiasm and assigned him to projects that demanded swift completions and innovative approaches. Throughout the years, Jonathan built a compact yet powerful network of mentors. Among them was Ethan Blackwell, who was a venture capitalist at that time. Ethan saw the promise in Jonathan and frequently brought him along to important meetings, guiding him through the subtleties of gauging the atmosphere, convincing investors, and navigating tricky circumstances. Yet, as Jonathan rose, so too did his sense of self-importance. A pivotal moment arrived when he received a tip regarding a struggling startup focused on machine learning software for e-commerce. While other investors perceived a gamble, Jonathan recognized a treasure trove. He gathered funds from his personal savings and a few smaller investors, acquiring the startup for a mere fraction of its true value. In the ensuing years, Jonathan steered the company towards the creation of sophisticated consumer analytics systems. Luck grinned, and so did the market. Contracts flooded in from prominent retailers across the globe. Jonathan's net worth soared to new heights. Opulent gatherings, extravagant journeys, and premier properties quickly came next. Scarlet did as well. They crossed paths during a gala where she was serving as a PR consultant, and Jonathan took the stage as the keynote speaker. Her warmth and authentic spirit pierced through Jonathan's tough exterior of ambition. They fell in love swiftly, and even Ethan Blackwell, who had become cautious of Jonathan's bold strategies, was moved by how Scarlet appeared to bring out a gentler side in him. For a while, Jonathan seemed truly content. The wedding unfolded as a lavish affair, marked by sophistication and exclusivity, capturing the attention of gossip columns everywhere. Yet, the triumph only intensified Jonathan's desire. He immersed himself further into business expansions, crafting deals in Asia and the Middle East, seldom returning home before midnight. Slowly, the warmth he once bestowed upon Scarlet faded, giving way to an unsettling discontent. He started to feel bitterness towards her soft nudges to harmonize his professional and personal life, perceiving them as limitations on his relentless rise. Upon Cassandra Monroe's arrival in his life, her shrewd aspirations resonated perfectly with his. Their connection transformed into a captivating refuge from the mundane life he believed was constraining him. At the Bright Futures Gala, Jonathan stood poised to make a memorable impression alongside Cassandra. Yet the recollection of the man he used to be, diligent, intelligent, and deeply devoted, still glimmered in his gaze. The inquiry lingered on whether that flicker of conscience would hold significance when he confronted the arrival of his pregnant wife, alongside the very mentor he had once revered. As Scarlet navigated the anxious journey to the Crystal Renaissance Hotel, she took a deep breath. Determined to maintain her composure, she would not allow herself to appear in disarray. Above all, she aimed to present herself as calm, graceful, and almost majestic. For far too long, she had assumed the role of the understanding partner, extending compassion and countless opportunities. This evening would unfold in a unique way. Seated beside her in the sleek Bentley, Ethan Blackwell inquired gently, "Are you certain you want to proceed with this? Facing Jonathan in front of the crowd will be quite a challenge." Scarlet straightened her posture, her hands resting gently over her expanding belly. "I must do this. I won't allow him to believe he can parade his affair without facing any consequences. By retreating, I concede victory to him. I refuse to remain a passive observer in my own existence." From her clutch, she pulled out an envelope, a manila file brimming with documents. This was her hidden advantage, carefully assembled throughout the last month. As uncertainties surrounding Jonathan intensified, she engaged a private investigator, not merely to confirm his infidelity, but to delve further into his professional transactions. The results, received just days prior, left her utterly stunned. Deceptive dealings, hidden corporate entities, and dubious international accounts. Jonathan was teetering on the brink of legality. If these details were to become public, it could spell disaster for him. Scarlet, however, had no plans to bring about his downfall just yet. She simply aimed to face him with the understanding that she was not naive. Jonathan was gravely mistaken if he believed he could simply divorce her in silence and cast her aside. This was her safeguard, for herself and their unborn child. Ethan cast a quick look at the file, his eyes catching the official seals and the detailed financial statements within. His demeanor shifted to one of seriousness. This matter demands attention. If the SEC or any law enforcement agency were to come across these documents. Scarlet pursed her lips. "I know. Yet it's the sole advantage I possess. I have no intention of going public unless I'm compelled to do so." At last, he will confront the repercussions of his choices. Ethan nodded, a mix of admiration and concern etched across his features. He had once viewed Jonathan as a promising talent, a person full of potential who could transform the world positively. Now, that same man found himself teetering on the edge of scandal and the looming threat of incarceration. Nevertheless, Ethan's foremost allegiance remained with Scarlet and the unborn child she bore. He quietly wished that the confrontation tonight could somehow awaken Jonathan's lost sense of decency. As they arrived at the hotel's entrance, the air was filled with the blinding flashes of paparazzi cameras. The crowd anticipated capturing images of celebrities and influencers, but the sight of Ethan Blackwell emerging with Jonathan's visibly pregnant wife sent them into a frenzy. Microphones reached out, cameras captured moments, and a flurry of questions echoed around. Scarlet inhaled deeply one final time, intertwined her fingers with Ethan's, and allowed him to lead her along the crimson path. As she stepped into the lobby, the palpable tension enveloped her, with eyes shifting towards them and hushed murmurs swiftly circulating. Scarlet's heart raced, yet her eyes shone with unwavering determination. Soon, she would confront Jonathan and his mistress, and when that moment arrived, she was determined to hold her ground, equipped with the truth and a strategy to restore her dignity. Ethan Blackwell was a name murmured within the elite circles of finance and business. 10 years prior, his investment firm, Blackwell Capital, had made waves in the tech industry by backing innovative startups, including those that transformed contemporary e-commerce and artificial intelligence. Ethan's remarkable ability to identify champions turned him into a legend. Yet, an unexpected tragedy, the fatal car accident of his younger sister, drove him into isolation. He declared a complete withdrawal from the public eye, shifting his focus to charitable endeavors in far-flung areas of the world. His presence at the Bright Futures Gala took everyone by surprise, particularly in the unexpected role of guardian to Scarlet Coloulton. Whispers floated through the crowd, speculating whether he and Scarlet shared a romantic connection. Could this suggest a significant partnership in the business realm? Some remembered that Ethan had previously served as Jonathan's mentor, which only intensified the ongoing intrigue. As Ethan stepped into the ballroom, all eyes were drawn to him, with a statuesque frame and an air of elegance. His understated charm stood in stark contrast to Jonathan's flamboyant bravado. Jonathan exuded the confidence of newfound wealth, whereas Ethan represented timeless elegance. He navigated Scarlet through the throng, gracefully sidestepping inquiries from journalists, his attention unwaveringly fixed on her welfare. Scarlet felt a deep sense of appreciation for his presence. Amidst the tumult of stares and whispers, she sensed a tranquil aura radiating from him. Her previous unease faded away, giving way to a strong resolve. United, they conveyed a striking image of strength, the betrayed wife protected by a formidable companion. Across the expanse of the ballroom, Jonathan and Cassandra found themselves deep in discussion with James Hartford and several prominent investors. As Jonathan noticed Scarlet arriving with Ethan, his assured smile wavered. In an instant, a glimmer of panic danced in his eyes. He bounced back swiftly, forcing a tight smile, yet Cassandra sensed the rigidity in his arm as he held onto her elbow. "Ethan is here?" Jonathan whispered, his voice strained. "Why on earth would he be here?" Cassandra arched an eyebrow. "Who is he to you?" "My former mentor," Jonathan replied quietly. "And that's my wife with him." Ethan's eyes locked with Jonathan's from across the room, offering a courteous nod that hinted at a deeper sense of discontent. Scarlet raised her chin with determination, clearly set on confronting the man who had wronged her. Cassandra swiftly grasped the seriousness of the situation. If Ethan Blackwell was in the mix, this was far from an ordinary domestic disagreement. Jonathan breathed out, dispelling the surprise. He rested a firm hand on Cassandra's waist, then, with an air of feigned indifference, guided her toward the recently arrived pair. A silence enveloped the spectators. The four were positioned close together, an unspoken tempest of tension electrifying the atmosphere. Jonathan, with a forced smile, was the one to break the silence. "Well, Scarlet, I wasn't aware you would be joining us this evening." His eyes flicked to Ethan before returning to her. "And you've brought along quite an esteemed companion." Scarlet's demeanor remained composed, though icy. "Hello, Jonathan. I hope I'm not intruding on your big night." In that moment, Ethan offered a subtle nod to Scarlet, signaling his unwavering support for her, regardless of what was to come. The atmosphere thickened, foreshadowing a confrontation that threatened to unravel Jonathan's meticulously crafted existence. Observers felt the tension rise, akin to an audience in a grand arena, as they witnessed Jonathan Coloulton and his pregnant wife face off, each backed by their loyal allies. In the background, the Gala's string quartet performed a piece that seemed strangely out of sync with the tension permeating every corner of the ballroom. Scarlet felt her heart race as she met Jonathan's gaze. Memories of their wedding day, serene evenings by the fireplace, and the moment they learned she was expecting surged through her mind like powerful waves. Yet the man standing before her now resembled a stranger more than the husband she once adored. Jonathan mustered a charming smile. "Scarlet, you look radiant. It's quite a surprise to find you here. I assumed you were taking it easy at home." His effort at casual conversation was nearly amusing, yet Cassandra, her arms encircling his, interjected. "Jonathan asked me to assist him in hosting. After all, it's an important night for the Bright Futures Foundation, and I'm deeply passionate about philanthropy." Her overly sweet tone only intensified Scarlet's frustration. She felt her nails dig into her palms, but she maintained a calm voice. "How kind of you, Cassandra. I'm certain your interest in Jonathan's matters extends well past mere philanthropy." A whisper rippled through the crowd. Cassandra tensed, her gaze igniting with intensity. Jonathan's smile faded, giving way to a piercing look of caution. Yet, if he believed Scarlet would shrink back from that gaze, he was sorely mistaken. Scarlet turned her attention to Jonathan, stating firmly, "I've come here because I deserve to see who you're showcasing, and to make it clear that neither I nor our child will be overlooked." Ethan stood beside her, placing a comforting hand on her arm. He spoke with a calm yet commanding tone. "Jonathan, I feel let down. This is not the individual I once guided. This public humiliation of your wife is beneath you, beneath everything we strive for." Jonathan's jaw tightened. Ethan's words resonated deeply, igniting a brief spark of guilt before his expression solidified once more. He surveyed the crowd, knowing that preserving his reputation was of utmost importance. "I believe we ought to take this discussion somewhere more discreet," Jonathan whispered, his tone dropping. "Scarlet, Ethan, let's step out onto the terrace." The onlookers parted like the Red Sea as the four of them, accompanied by a few of the most inquisitive spectators, made their way toward the ornate double doors leading outside. A silence enveloped the main ballroom, yet the murmurs and hurried messages were bound to persist in its aftermath. On the terrace, the city lights sparkled in the distance, a striking juxtaposition to the encroaching darkness that loomed between them. A soft wind whispered through, yet it offered scant comfort against the rising unease. Jonathan confronted Scarlet, his tone laced with frustration. "Why bring Ethan here? Why humiliate me in front of everyone?" Scarlet's eyes brimmed with tears, yet her voice held a defiant edge. "Humiliate you? You're the one parading around with someone else while I'm carrying your baby. Did you honestly believe I would remain silent?" Cassandra made an effort to step in, but Ethan quieted her with a sharp look. He then turned to Jonathan. "If you still hold any respect for Scarlet, you'll manage this situation with grace." For a brief moment, Jonathan's shoulders drooped, a hint of regret passing over his features, but Cassandra grasped his arm, her presence a reminder of the choice he had made. Caught in a struggle of conflicting emotions, Jonathan stood at a pivotal moment with the city, and, above all, Scarlet, eager to witness his choice. Ultimately, the encounter on the terrace was thankfully short-lived. Cassandra assumed the part of the indignant girlfriend, yet it was clear to many that her fury was fueled more by a fear for her own aspirations than by any true affection for Jonathan. Scarlet, on the brink of tears, averted her gaze, determined not to reveal her fragility to the mistress. Ethan guided her away from the terrace, providing a graceful escape from an utterly humiliating predicament. As they re-entered the ballroom, they were met with a surge of inquisitive stares and muted whispers. Scarlet's heart raced, a whirlwind of fury, sorrow, and an unexpected resolve she never realized she had. She grasped Ethan's arm, thankful for his steadfast presence. Meanwhile, Jonathan and Cassandra lingered on the terrace, the air thick with unspoken tension. Cassandra hissed, feeling the sting of humiliation. "How could you not give me a heads up that your wife would be here, pregnant no less, and with Ethan Blackwell of all people. Jonathan ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. For one, I had no clue Scarlet was coming. Trust me, this wasn't what I intended. He shot a look at Cassandra, briefly doubting his choices. And let's not overlook the fact that you were the one who pushed for everyone to know about us. Well, here we are. Cassandra's eyes narrowed. So now you're pointing fingers at me? Did you catch the way Ethan looked at you? He could wipe you out. You'd better pray he doesn't start poking into your finances or your business dealings. A shadow of dread passed over Jonathan's features. Cassandra had a point. Should Ethan unleash his vast resources upon him, the fallout could be devastating. With determination, Jonathan stood tall, adjusting his suit with care. Let's keep things composed. We'll complete our responsibilities here, then discuss our next steps in private. Within the venue, the gala program continued to unfold. The MC stepped into the spotlight, encouraging attendees to contribute to the foundation. Enthusiastic applause erupted as significant donations illuminated the digital display. Yet beneath the charitable surface, the true intrigue of the evening captivated all. Social media erupted with images of Scarlet and Ethan's entrance, igniting sensational headlines such as CEO Ethan Blackwell saves heartbroken wife from millionaire's betrayal. Scarlet and Ethan discovered a quiet nook by the refreshment tables. A handful of acquaintances came forward with gentle concern, yet the majority maintained a cautious distance. Scarlet took a glass of water from a waiter, but barely sipped it. She felt a chill, even amidst the warmth of the bustling room. Ethan leaned in, his voice low and intimate. I'm really proud of you for asserting yourself, but I can't help but worry about how stressed you seem. Perhaps it would be best if we took our leave. Scarlet paused, feeling the weight of her emotions. Despite her exhaustion, a defiant spark ignited within her, refusing to accept the notion of backing down. I must prove to him that fear will not drive me away. She decided to linger a little longer, at least until the main announcements concluded. Ethan nodded, acknowledging her choice. In reality, his admiration for her had only deepened. A flicker of guilt tugged at his conscience. He had played a part in Jonathan's ascent, unaware of how power could twist a man. Now, Ethan quietly vowed to stand as Scarlet's protector against any tempests Jonathan might bring forth. As the gala unfolded, a palpable tension enveloped the guests. Curiosity hung in the air. Would Scarlet succumb to tears, or would she stand resilient against the mounting pressure? Would Jonathan's star face consequences for his audacious betrayal, or would he navigate the storm unscathed, shielded by his affluence and power? Only time, and possibly Ethan Blackwell's next decision, would reveal the outcome. In the aftermath of the gala, whispers circulated like a brewing storm. Some tabloids published sensational headlines, Billionaire showdown, while high society gossip columns showcased anonymous sources eagerly sharing details about Jonathan's bold public reveal of Cassandra. Scarlet, though embarrassed, found comfort in the wave of supportive messages she received from old friends and even strangers who understood her situation. Amid the turmoil, a small group of unexpected allies gathered to support Scarlet. Natalie Cruz, a childhood friend and legal advisor in Jonathan's company, was the first to take action. Following her initial warning call, she intensified her support. Natalie organized a meeting for Scarlet with leading divorce attorneys as a precaution and assisted in gathering additional evidence regarding Jonathan's dubious business practices. Should a legal confrontation arise, Scarlet would be thoroughly equipped. Then there was Marian DuPont, a graceful philanthropist who had guided Scarlet at the beginning of her public relations journey. Marianne had always appreciated Scarlet's kindness and commitment to charitable endeavors. Fuming over Jonathan's blatant disrespect, Marian leveraged her connections within social circles to garner moral backing. She made certain that whenever Jonathan attempted to portray Scarlet as unstable or envious, he faced strong disapproval from influential members of the community. However, the most unexpected ally turned out to be James Hartford, the CEO, who had previously been Jonathan's trusted confidant. After observing Jonathan's public disgrace of Scarlet, James began to reevaluate their friendship. He contacted Ethan, voicing his shock at Jonathan's behavior and suggesting that he could help connect Scarlet with financial professionals who could quietly assess Jonathan's assets, safeguarding Scarlet's interests if she chose to pursue separation. Scarlet was taken aback by this surge of support. Once apprehensive about feeling alone and vulnerable during her pregnancy, she now discovered herself surrounded by a supportive and resourceful circle of friends. It became clear to her that her situation was not as fragile as Jonathan might have believed. In the meantime, Ethan kept in touch consistently. He made his way to Scarlet's estate, ensuring her emotional state and that of the unborn child were well cared for. His steady presence offered a reassuring anchor in Scarlet's life, even as whispers of scandal trailed behind them. Certain tabloids hinted at an affair, portraying Ethan as the gallant hero swooping in to claim a millionaire's wife. Scarlet decided to dismiss the rumors. She had faith that Ethan's motives were solely driven by a desire to protect and help others. He was a man committed to correcting injustices. Jonathan's response to the burgeoning alliance was steeped in a blend of fury and suspicion. Cassandra stoked the fire, cautioning him that Scarlet was amassing legal leverage. In turn, he found himself making late-night calls to attorneys, sifting through financial records to hide any wrongdoing, and initiating a covert inquiry into the source of information reaching Scarlet. Yet, Jonathan's efforts to reclaim authority appeared to elude him. Every time he endeavored to stage a victorious public moment alongside Cassandra, the media coverage consistently resurfaced discussions about Scarlet's dignity and Ethan's charitable ventures. Investors began to feel apprehensive, feeling the unrest might affect Jonathan's upcoming business ventures. Conflicts intensified in the shadows. The pressing question was no longer if a reckoning would occur, but rather when it would happen, and who would ultimately wield the critical influence when everything fell apart. For Jonathan Colton, the initial sign of impending trouble came in the shape of a blunt letter from the Securities and Exchange Commission. It sought documents related to various offshore accounts that Jonathan had foolishly thought were concealed behind multiple layers of shell corporations. Someone somewhere had alerted the authorities, though he had no way of knowing who it was. He had a nagging suspicion about Ethan, or perhaps even Scarlet's friend Natalie. His anxiety surged, leading to restless nights packed with urgent calls to his legal team. As if the SEC inquiry wasn't challenging enough, Jonathan found his relationship with Cassandra slipping away. She had not anticipated becoming involved with a man facing scrutiny, whose wealth could be at risk if the claims proved true. She began to skip their planned dinners, claiming pressing matters of her own. The once vibrant bond between them grew strained, with each blaming the other for betrayal. Cassandra suggested that she might just sever ties and leave if Jonathan's empire began to falter. Faced with an impending legal storm and a mistress growing increasingly impatient, Jonathan's meticulously constructed image started to unravel. His employees murmured about his unpredictable actions, the sudden dismissal of those he considered disloyal, last-minute cancellations of spontaneous meetings, and a breakdown in front of crucial investors. Meanwhile, Scarlet quietly advanced her preparations. With Natalie's help, she gathered every document, text message, and photograph relevant to Jonathan's misconduct, both personal and professional. She felt conflicted. Part of her wanted to fully expose him, to witness him face the consequences of the betrayal he had inflicted. Another part, however, recalled the man she had once cherished. She understood that obliterating him entirely would lead to heartbreak for her child, who deserved a father untainted by scandal and incarceration. Yet, the instinct for self-preservation remained of utmost importance. Scarlet directed her legal team to ready a sealed divorce filing. She would only need to proceed if Jonathan declined a reasonable settlement. The future of her unborn child was her top priority. If Jonathan attempted any deceitful tactics, Scarlet would be poised to retaliate. Meanwhile, Ethan leveraged his vast network of contacts to safeguard Scarlet's well-being and tranquility. Investigators loyal to him quietly uncovered additional proof of Jonathan's wrongdoing, including unreported finances, rumors of insider trading, and deals tainted by bribery in international markets. With careful deliberation, Ethan constructed a protective barrier around Scarlet's passions. He never pushed for complete retribution. Instead, he held a steadfast belief in fairness and responsibility. Whispers of Jonathan's decline circulated swiftly. Members of his board started to doubt his steadiness, suggesting that a shift in leadership could be essential to safeguard their brand's image. This only intensified Jonathan's sense of urgency. He felt the grip on his business slipping away, the story unraveling, and the woman he once perceived as submissive now standing resolute. One late evening, Cassandra gathered her belongings, leaving behind a brief note. She asserted that she couldn't jeopardize her own future by remaining on a vessel destined to sink. The instant Jonathan became aware of her leaving, a wave of betrayal washed over him, mingled with an unsettling sense of relief. She was gone, yet he was left to confront the chaos he had created. Standing in his eerily silent penthouse, gazing out at a city whose vibrant lights had once represented his relentless ascent, Jonathan came to terms with a harsh reality. The empire he constructed through ambition, cunning, and a hint of deceit was crumbling, and Scarlet, whom he had misjudged, was the spark for it, leaving him torn between blaming her or himself for the impending downfall. Cassandra Monroe had vanished from Jonathan's penthouse, yet her exit was anything but a withdrawal. In a luxurious suite at the Halcyon Hotel, she savored champagne while perusing news articles that chronicled Jonathan's declining reputation. She weighed her choices carefully. While the excitement of being noticed alongside a millionaire thrilled her, she had never planned to sink with his ship. Cassandra's whole way of life centered on connecting herself with influence and affluence. As Jonathan's future began to dim, she orchestrated a strategic retreat. She meticulously ensured that no compromising traces remained in his home. Each luxurious handbag and every piece of jewelry he had bestowed upon her was carefully tucked away in a safety deposit box leased under an alias. She understood all too well how swiftly assets could vanish in a legal disaster. As Jonathan struggled to prevent his empire from crumbling, Cassandra was already on the lookout for her next venture. With a network of connections among global magnates, executives, and aristocrats, she was poised to leverage her social acumen and strategic insights. Yet one detail lingered in her mind: the presence of Ethan Blackwell. His commanding aura and the respect he garnered piqued Cassandra's curiosity more than she cared to acknowledge. She remembered how Ethan had fixed her with an unwavering gaze at the Gala, seemingly unimpressed, even indifferent. Men often stumbled over one another for a second look at Cassandra. Ethan, however, stood apart, seemingly unfazed by her allure or Jonathan's dramatic displays. She sought to uncover more about him. Whispers floated around about his affluent background, charitable connections, and steadfast principles. He was exactly the type of individual who seldom fell prey to the cunning tactics that had benefited Cassandra in previous endeavors. Still, she found it difficult to completely dismiss the notion of earning Ethan's approval. Ultimately, if Jonathan's fate was sealed, aligning herself with someone like Ethan Blackwell could serve as her next opportunity. With the help of a discreet connection at Blackwell Capital, Cassandra orchestrated a chance encounter at an art auction. She arrived in a chic black dress, exuding an air of effortless sophistication. Upon Ethan's arrival, he hardly acknowledged her presence. His purpose was philanthropic, focused on bidding for a collection of paintings to aid a local charity. Cassandra tried to engage him in light conversation, but his replies were courteous yet detached. He was fully aware of her identity and the role she had played in Scarlet's heartbreak. Unfazed, Cassandra resolved to reveal her true feelings. She approached Ethan after he won a painting and said softly, "I never meant to hurt Scarlet." Jonathan shared a contrasting account of their marriage, claiming it was already finished, that she was a gold digger leveraging his name to ascend the social hierarchy. Ethan's blue eyes sparkled with barely concealed contempt. "So, did you take his word for it, or is that just the tale that aligned with your aspirations?" Her cheeks turned crimson. "I may have been a bit naive. I recognize that now. However, I am not the villain that others portray me as. A deep commitment to philanthropy drives me. Perhaps we could—" Ethan interrupted her with a sharp shake of his head. "If you genuinely want to mend what you've damaged, begin by offering an apology to Scarlet and keep your distance from her." He pivoted sharply, leaving Cassandra in stunned silence, her meticulously crafted schemes unraveling in an instant of raw dismissal. In that fleeting moment, she understood that Ethan Blackwell was not merely unaffected by her allure. He was distinctly averse to it. For the first time, Cassandra faced a lack of clear direction toward her next ascent in the social hierarchy, and while her cleverness remained intact, she felt the weight of a world influenced by ethical stalwarts like Ethan, signaling that her reign as the master of advantage might be nearing its end. As the SEC investigation deepened, Jonathan confronted the harsh truth that an indictment could be looming if further damaging evidence emerged. In a moment of desperation, he sought a private audience with Ethan Blackwell. Jonathan hoped that his former mentor might provide a way out or, at the very least, refrain from disclosing any compromising information he might possess. Pride set aside, Jonathan made the call. They convened in a conference room with glass walls at a secluded private club in the heart of downtown. Jonathan entered with a facade of confidence, yet the dark circles beneath his eyes revealed a contrasting narrative. Ethan sat there, hands neatly folded on the mahogany table, his expression a mystery. After a brief, charged silence, Jonathan started, "I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, Ethan." Ethan nodded slightly in acknowledgement. "You mentioned it was urgent. I'm all ears." Jonathan cleared his throat, his words stumbling in his dry mouth. "I understand your disapproval regarding what transpired with Scarlet, and I acknowledge my mistakes, but I believe I shouldn't have to face total loss. Our shared history means something. You once referred to me as a protégé." Ethan's gaze held firm. "That was prior to your departure from ethical business practices and fundamental decency." A wave of anger surged within Jonathan, yet he suppressed it, striving to infuse his voice with calmness. "Your assistance would be greatly appreciated. I understand you have valuable connections within regulatory bodies. If you could kindly mention my situation, it would mean a lot. I can resolve this, compensate however you see fit. Just please, don't let them silence me. A child is on the horizon for me." Ethan paused, lost in contemplation. His journey with Jonathan had been a tapestry of admiration and disappointment, now teetering on the brink of pity. "Do you truly comprehend the impact of your actions on Scarlet? On your unborn child? You flaunted another woman in public while your wife was nurturing your future." Jonathan's gaze fell. His effort to maintain a composed demeanor crumbled. "Scarlet was always beyond my reach. I realize that now. But please, Ethan, you understand the way this world operates. If the SEC comes after me, my reputation will be shattered. I won't be able to support my child as I had envisioned." Ethan let out a deep, controlled breath. "I can communicate with specific individuals. This may provide you with an opportunity to be honest about your offshore activities, but I cannot guarantee that it will absolve you. The law remains unchanged. If you decide to hold back or attempt to game the system, you're on your own." "Got it." Ethan reclined in his chair, a brief shadow of sorrow passing over his features. "An apology to Scarlet is also due from you. An equitable arrangement for her and the baby is essential. If you fail to comply, I will take it upon myself to guarantee that every piece of evidence reaches the authorities." Even though the words pierced him, Jonathan understood that this was probably his sole opportunity to maintain a fragment of his dignity. "I shall. Thanks, Ethan. I assure you this will stay with me." Ethan concluded the meeting. "Simply uphold that commitment." As Jonathan stepped out of the club, he was enveloped by a swirl of relief and unease. He understood that his journey towards redemption demanded setting aside his pride, admitting his mistakes, and reconciling with Scarlet. It would be a challenging endeavor, particularly for someone whose life had been defined by relentless ambition and an unwavering stance against vulnerability. Yet, in the depths of despair, Jonathan might still uncover a path to preserve what was most significant. In the weeks that ensued, Jonathan set out on a chaotic quest for damage control. As Ethan had cautioned, the SEC's examination persisted unwaveringly, even when Jonathan attempted to engage the CEO in a private discussion. Nonetheless, a blend of voluntary disclosures, collaboration with investigators, and restitution payments to affected parties provided Jonathan with a bit of leeway. He skillfully reached a settlement, steering clear of the dire consequences of a full-blown criminal trial. Nevertheless, the burden of penalties and the stain on his reputation was considerable. Shareholders demanded a fresh leadership approach, compelling Jonathan to resign as CEO of his own company. The board acted quickly in their decision-making. An interim CEO has been chosen, a composed and experienced individual from within the company's own ranks. Jonathan found himself in an advisory position, one that was purely symbolic and devoid of any genuine power. The media reveled in the story of the fallen star, a man once celebrated as a bold innovator, now engulfed in controversy. Each headline unearthed allusions to his affair, crafting a cautionary narrative of arrogance. Scarlet observed these changes with a mix of nostalgia and longing. She found it hard to take pleasure in his demise, not entirely, as memories of his kind spirit lingered in her mind. She wed the man who had once tucked roses into her hair on a leisurely Sunday afternoon, yet the sorrow he caused called for responsibility. Their bond had suffered irreparable harm. For the sake of their unborn child, Scarlet opted for a route of cautious collaboration. Her legal team commenced divorce proceedings while also proposing a settlement plan designed to secure financial support for their child, all while preserving Jonathan's dignity. She demanded complete custody, allowing Jonathan the opportunity for regular visits, contingent upon his sincere attempts at reform. For weeks, Jonathan lingered in doubt, wary that this might be a cunning snare. However, when no additional punitive actions came to pass, he understood that Scarlet was genuine. On the day he finalized the divorce, a deep sense of loss washed over him, a realization that he had let something invaluable slip away. Cassandra's life underwent a rapid transformation as well. After being dismissed by Ethan, she momentarily contemplated pursuing other affluent suitors. However, her reputation suffered due to her connection with Jonathan's scandal, leading to numerous missed opportunities. In an effort to restore her reputation, she turned to charitable endeavors, paradoxically relying on the relationships she had forged during her brief time alongside Jonathan. She established a modest foundation aimed at promoting children's literacy, seemingly more of a public relations maneuver. Regardless of its authenticity, it presented her with a chance for a fresh image. As time passed, she attracted a small audience, yet she never recaptured the powerful influence she once wielded in Jonathan's limelight. Ethan Blackwell's position as Scarlet's ally transformed into a more profound connection. At first, it was a bond forged through shared understanding and appreciation. He was captivated by her unwavering strength. She admired his steadfast commitment to integrity. They engaged in an extensive dialogue about philanthropic initiatives, local charities, and creative methods to uplift underprivileged communities. Scarlet uncovered that Ethan's passion for philanthropy was rooted in a personal tragedy. The untimely loss of his sister ignited his wish to foster a more compassionate world. When Scarlet welcomed her daughter Grace Colton into the world, Colton was among the first to arrive at the hospital to see her. He presented a modest bouquet of lilies, standing in sharp contrast to the extravagant offerings from others. Scarlet felt a wave of emotion wash over her as the gesture resonated deeply within her. In that serene moment, they both turned their attention to the newborn, a beautiful blend of Jonathan's heritage and Scarlet's unwavering spirit. The purity in Grace's small eyes brought to mind for Scarlet the profound responsibilities that had come to define her life. In the ensuing months, Jonathan endeavored to restore his reputation as a father. Initially during supervised visits, he held Grace with shaking arms, tears welling in his eyes. Scarlet found herself unable to determine if those tears stemmed from guilt or true affection, yet she granted him the freedom to cultivate a connection with their child. He ceased any additional pleas for reconciliation in their union. Maybe he understood the irrevocable nature of his actions. Instead, he concentrated on restoring a sense of trust with Scarlet, though it was strictly within the framework of co-parenting. There were days that flowed effortlessly, while others felt more challenging. Jonathan embarked on a journey into therapy, a decision that took him by surprise. During these sessions, He wrestled with the childhood insecurities that ignited his unyielding pursuit of achievement. He faced the reality that his pursuit of approval had obscured the emotional turmoil he caused in others, especially Scarlet. The advancement was gradual yet evident. Despite being viewed as an outcast in the business world, Jonathan discovered niches of potential within lesser-known enterprises eager to utilize his expertise. He accepted a consulting position with a tech startup in Seattle, making the journey back to visit Grace on weekends. Scarlet, in contrast, thrived. Released from the confines of a discontented union, she wholeheartedly pursued her artistic endeavors. She collaborated with Marion DuPont to establish a new nonprofit, Project Heart to Heart, dedicated to offering emotional and financial assistance to pregnant women encountering abandonment or domestic strife. The cause struck a profound chord with Scarlet's personal journey. Contributions surged, fueled by support from notable personalities and the philanthropic circles associated with Ethan Blackwell. Unavoidably, whispers circulated regarding the bond between Scarlet and Ethan. Online platforms eagerly pondered the possibility of a romance blossoming between the charitable billionaire and the recently divorced mother. For an extended period, Scarlet opted to remain silent about these rumors, partly uncertain of her own emotions. She held Ethan's friendship in high regard, treasuring the security and insight he provided. However, a fresh spark gradually ignited, one that seemed authentic, rooted in shared respect rather than intrigue and aspiration. On a brisk autumn day, several months after Grace's arrival, Ethan extended an invitation to Scarlet to explore a newly established community center he had financed in an underprivileged area. As they strolled through the corridors, engaged in a conversation about the expansion of childcare facilities and counseling rooms, their hands inadvertently touched. Scarlet glanced up, noticing a warmth in Ethan's eyes that reflected her own growing feelings. In that silent exchange, they recognized the emergence of a deepening connection. They took their time with every decision. Both were acutely conscious that Scarlet was still mending from the wounds caused by Jonathan's betrayals. Ethan exhibited a calm demeanor, permitting Scarlet to dictate the rhythm of their interaction. Their inaugural date unfolded over a humble dinner at a quaint Italian bistro, a world away from the city's flashy venues. For hours, they engaged in conversation over homemade pasta, uncovering common values and a mutual desire for a serene, purposeful existence unburdened by the shallow allure of riches. Amidst the challenges, Scarlet kept her eyes on Grace, resolutely committed to nurturing her daughter with affection and a sense of security. To her astonishment, Jonathan sometimes revealed moments of genuine honesty. One morning, he sent Scarlet a message that said, "I appreciate you allowing me to be a part of Grace's life. I will not let her down as I did with you." The words resonated with Scarlet, though they carried a hint of sorrow for what could have been. The public's intrigue with the scandal eventually waned, giving way to fresh headlines about celebrity antics and political upheavals. Scarlet's tale transformed into a warning etched in memory. The expectant wife, who confronted her wealthy husband's bold treachery, and came out more resilient than ever. In her private moments, her life transcended the notion of a cautionary tale, instead becoming a journey shaped by compassion, resilience, and hope. The concluding chapter of Jonathan's decline lingered in the air, imparting wisdom to all who were part of the tale. Cassandra realized that there are boundaries to opportunism, particularly when faced with a strong moral foundation like Ethan's. Jonathan discovered that success without loyalty and integrity ultimately crumbles, while Scarlet unearthed her voice, vowing never to be eclipsed by another's ambition or treachery again. As time passed, the bond between Scarlet and Ethan subtly grew stronger. As Grace took her first steps, Ethan stood by, celebrating with the same exuberance as Scarlet. He had not taken on the role of Father Jonathan, yet he infused Grace's life with a gentle warmth and guidance that felt distinctly paternal. During community events, the three adults maintained a practical rapport. Jonathan, now stripped of his former arrogance, found value in Ethan's presence, recognizing that Ethan's support was vital for Scarlet and Grace's comfortable lives. In a tender and private moment, Ethan asked Scarlet to be his forever during a cozy candlelit dinner at his estate, while Grace peacefully slept in the nursery above. He knelt down, presenting a modest ring with sincerity. Emotion surged within Scarlet as memories of past heartbreak flooded her mind, bringing tears to her eyes. Yet here she stood, facing a man who had consistently demonstrated kindness, loyalty, and respect. She agreed instantly without a moment's pause. Their engagement was kept under wraps for some time, revealed solely to a select circle of friends and family. When the news emerged, it was met with an unexpected lack of controversy. At that point, Scarlet had established herself as a notable philanthropist, while Ethan had become a nearly legendary embodiment of compassionate capitalism. Their union represented more than mere romance. It embodied the victory of decency over betrayal and resilience over heartbreak. On a bright afternoon, the couple exchanged vows in an intimate garden ceremony at Marianne DuPont's estate. Grace took on the role of a flower girl, delicately scattering rose petals along an aisle adorned with cherished friends and family. Jonathan emerged, positioned at the rear, silently taking in the proceedings of the ceremony. He had arrived to offer his support and to stand by Grace on a day that would define the course of her family's destiny. He departed shortly after, but not without offering a courteous nod to Ethan and softly telling Scarlet, "I'm genuinely pleased for you." Scarlet's grip on Ethan's hand grew firmer, a silent recognition of the complex emotions that life often presents. Ultimately, the pain of heartbreak guided her toward a realm of authentic love, appreciation, and meaning. We appreciate your presence as we navigate this poignant tale of aspiration, treachery, and eventual salvation. If you found yourself enthralled by the drama of a wealthy man showcasing his lover, only to be jolted by the surprising entrance of his expectant wife, and then touched by the unforeseen partnerships and personal confrontations, your support would be greatly appreciated. If this tale had you gripping your seat in suspense, give that like button a tap. Pass it along to those who appreciate authentic stories filled with emotional turns. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay updated on all our forthcoming tales. Every story we present delves into the intricacies of human connections, providing both warnings and glimmers of optimism. Your involvement enables us to expand and keep delivering these captivating narratives. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and keep an eye out for more captivating dramas ahead.